Inside every single one of us, there's a biological kill switch. It's a process where our cells are literally programmed to die. Not to harm us, but actually to keep us alive and healthy. So today, we're going to unpack this amazing paradox, the absolutely essential process of apoptosis.
So let's just start with the big question. Why on earth would our bodies need a self-destruct button for their own cells? Yeah, it sounds a little morbid, right? But programmed cell death isn't some kind of failure. It's actually a fundamental, elegant, and totally essential pillar of life. Let's dig in and see how.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with why this essential suicide is so important. Then we'll meet the gatekeeper proteins that are making the life or death call. We're going to witness the point of no return, see what happens when the whole system breaks down, and then explore how we're learning to rewire this kill switch to fight disease.
Okay, so to really get this, you kind of have to shift how you think about cell death. Apoptosis isn't some chaotic breakdown. No. It's a meticulously controlled, you could even say beautiful, process of self-destruction that is absolutely vital for our existence.
You know, the name itself, apoptosis, is pretty poetic. It comes from the Greek word for falling off. The scientists who came up with it back in 1972, they were thinking about petals falling from a flower or leaves dropping from a tree in autumn. Not a violent tearing, but a natural, controlled, quiet release.
And this tidiness, it's absolutely crucial. Apoptosis is the polar opposite of necrosis. That's the messy kind of cell death you get from an injury, where a cell just swells up, bursts, and spills its guts everywhere, causing a big inflammatory mess. Apoptosis, on the other hand, is an active, clean process. The cell shrinks, it breaks itself into these neat little packages, and then its neighbors just gobble it up. No fuss, no muss. It's the ultimate tidy death.
So why is this so important? Well, this process is working constantly. It's the sculptor that carved out the spaces between your fingers and toes when you were in the womb. It's what allows a tadpole to lose its tail and become a frog. And on a daily basis, it's what maintains a healthy balance in your tissues by clearing out old cells. And it acts as a vigilant security guard, getting rid of cells that are damaged or infected before they can turn into cancer or cause other problems.
Okay, so how does a cell actually pull the trigger?
Well, it all comes down to this one critical family of proteins called BCL2. You can think of them as the gatekeepers, the molecular regulators who are in a constant negotiation over a cell's fate.
Picture this. Inside every one of your cells, right now, there's this high-stakes molecular argument happening. Different factions of this BCL2 protein family, they're constantly debating one single question. Should this cell live or should it die? And the outcome of that argument determines everything.
So this family is basically divided into three competing teams. First, you've got the guardians. Their whole job is to prevent apoptosis. Then you have the executioners. These are guys like backs and back. They are the ultimate killers, but they're held in check by the guardians. And finally, you have the sentinels. When they sense trouble, like DNA damage or some other stress, they sound the alarm. And they do that by neutralizing the guardians, which in turn unleashes the executioners to do their deadly work.
And this brings us to the climax, the final showdown in this molecular standoff. The final decision, the actual point of no return, it all happens at one very specific place in the cell, the mitochondrion.
We all learned this in biology class, right? The mitochondrion is the powerhouse of the cell. It makes all the energy. But here's the thing, it has a secret, much darker job. It's also the central command hub for apoptosis. It's the gatekeeper of life and death for the entire cell.
This is where the decision becomes absolutely final. The key event is when the mitochondrion's outer membrane gets breached. It's a moment called MOMP, for mitochondrial outer membrane permeabilization. Once that happens, the cell is committed to die. As the researchers Bender and Martineau put it, this is the point of no return. There's no going back.
So here's how that fatal cascade goes down. A stress signal wakes up the sentinels. They then go and neutralize the guardians. This sets the executioners, backs and backs, free. Now that they're unleashed, they swarm the mitochondrion and start punching holes in its outer membrane, that's MOP. And through these new holes, a critical protein called cytochrome C floods out into the rest of the cell. Once it's out, cytochrome C activates the cell's demolition crew, these enzymes called caspases, which then go on to systematically dismantle the cell from the inside out. Game over.
Now, this system is incredibly precise. But what happens when it breaks? As you can probably guess, the consequences of a faulty kill switch are severe. And they lead directly to some of our most challenging diseases.
You can think of life and health as this really delicate balancing act between making new cells and getting rid of old ones. When that apoptosis system gets tipped one way or the other, either too little cell death or way too much,
disease is pretty much the inevitable result.
So the system can fail in two main ways. On one hand, you can have too little apoptosis. That means cells that should die don't. This is a classic hallmark of cancer. Tumor cells are masters at evading their kill switch. It's also a factor in autoimmune disorders. But on the flip side, too much apoptosis causes devastating cell loss. That's a key driver of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and it's what causes so much damage during a stroke or a heart attack.
And just to give you a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about here, check out this number. In your body, right now, this very second, about 100,000 of your cells are dying by apoptosis every single second. That's how fundamental this process is to just keeping you alive and healthy.
All right, now for the really cool part, the part that gives us hope. Understanding this intricate molecular dance isn't just for textbooks. It's opening the door to a revolutionary new way of treating diseases by literally hacking the kill switch itself.
One of the most exciting breakthroughs here is a new class of drugs called BH3 mimetics. What they do is they're designed to perfectly mimic those sentinel proteins we talked about, basically impersonating the cell's own natural kill signal. The goal is to force those rogue cancer cells to finally undergo the apoptosis they've been so good at avoiding.
The whole strategy is it's incredibly clever. In a lot of cancers, the main problem is that the cells are making way too many guardian proteins, which keep the executioners on a really tight leash. So these BH3 mimetic drugs come in and act like sentinels. They grab onto those extra guardians, prying them off the executioners. And once Bax and Back are finally free, they just do their job and kill the cancer cell.
And this really sums it all up. A quote from the pioneers in the field, Adams and Corey. They wrote that a deeper understanding of apoptosis offers great promise. By digging into this fundamental biology, we can design much smarter, more selective drugs that exploit the very system that cancer has hijacked for its own survival.
Which, of course, leaves us with this huge, tantalizing question. We've talked a lot about reactivating apoptosis to fight cancer, but what about the other side of that coin? If we can truly master this switch, learn to dial it up or down, could we one day learn to dial it down to protect our brains from the cell loss and neurodegeneration? Or maybe even slow down some aspects of aging? The journey to understand the body's kill switch is far from over, but it is without a doubt one of the most exciting frontiers in all of modern medicine.